The studio lights burn hotter than usual. There's something in the air, thick, electric, almost dangerous. The cameras roll across the set of The View, gliding past the polished table, the expectant audience, the familiar faces, until they land on two legends sitting across from each other. George Clooney, calm, composed, the kind of presence that has owned red carpets for decades. And opposite him, Whoopi Goldberg. Unapologetic, sharp, a voice that has never once hesitated to cut through noise. But today, something is different. Because this isn't just another celebrity interview. This is about to become a moment no one in that room will forget. And before we dive into this intense showdown, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, hit that like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because what you're about to witness, it's not just entertainment. It's raw, it's real, and it's unforgettable. The conversation begins smoothly. Clooney leans back slightly, that familiar half-smile on his face. The same charm that carried him from ER to global superstardom. The same presence that won him an Academy Award for Syriana and turned him into one of Hollywood's most respected voices. Not just as an actor, but as a filmmaker, activist, and thinker. Whoopi watches him closely. She's seen it all. An EGOT winner. An Oscar for Ghost. A career that spans comedy, drama, activism, and decades of unfiltered truth. She's not impressed by charm. She's interested in honesty. "So, George," she begins, her tone light, but her eyes focused, calculating. "You've been very vocal lately. Politics, humanitarian work. You don't just make movies anymore. You make statements." A ripple of anticipation moves through the audience. Clooney nods. "I think when you have a platform," he says evenly, "you have a responsibility to use it." Simple. Measured. Safe. But Whoopi tilts her head slightly. "And you think actors should lead those conversations?" There it is. The first shift. The audience feels it. Clooney pauses, just for a second. Not long enough to look uncomfortable, but long enough to signal that he's choosing his words carefully. "I think people with influence should speak when it matters," he replies. Whoopi leans forward. "And who decides when it matters?" A murmur spreads through the room. This isn't scripted anymore. Clooney's smile fades, just slightly. "I think we all do," he says. Individually. But Whoopi isn't letting go. Because this isn't just about Clooney. This is about something bigger. "You know," she says, her voice tightening just a bit, "I've been in this industry a long time. I've seen actors come and go, speak up, stay silent. And sometimes it feels like people only speak when it's comfortable." The audience reacts, soft gasps, shifting in seats. Clooney's posture straightens. That charm? It's still there. But now it's guarded. "I don't think speaking out is ever comfortable," he says. "Not if you're doing it right." Whoopi raises an eyebrow. "Really?" A beat. Silence stretches across the set. And suddenly, the conversation isn't polite anymore. It's personal. Clooney exhales slowly. "You've used your platform too," he says. "You know what that comes with." Whoopi doesn't blink. "Oh, I do," she says. "But I also know the difference between speaking from experience and speaking from a distance." That lands. Hard. The audience reacts louder this time. Some applause, some tension. Because everyone knows what she's implying. Clooney hears it too. And for the first time, his expression shifts completely. The easygoing movie star disappears. Now he's present. Focused. Engaged. "What does that mean?" he asks. His tone isn't hostile. But it's not relaxed anymore. Whoopi leans back slightly, crossing her arms. "It means," she says carefully, "that sometimes people talk about the world like they're in it. But they're not living the same reality as everyone else." The room goes quiet. Dead quiet. Even the cameras seem to slow down. Clooney nods once. Slowly. "I've spent a lot of time in places most people wouldn't go," he says. Sudan. Darfur. "I've seen things firsthand." And he has. His activism isn't performative. It's documented, respected. But Whoopi doesn't back down. "I'm not questioning where you've been," she says. "I'm questioning how it translates." The tension spikes. Now it's not just a discussion. It's a challenge. Clooney leans forward. "And what do you think I'm missing?" he asks. The audience holds its breath. Whoopi meets his gaze. "Perspective," she says. One word. Sharp. Precise. Explosive. A wave of reactions ripples through the crowd. Some shocked, some intrigued, some completely locked into what's unfolding. Clooney's jaw tightens. Just slightly. But enough. "Perspective," he repeats. "Yes," Whoopi says. Because it's easy to advocate when you can step away from the consequences. The energy in the room shifts again, this time heavier, more serious. Because now, it's not about celebrity anymore. It's about truth. Or at least, whose truth matters more. Clooney doesn't respond immediately. And in that silence, you can feel something building. Something deeper than disagreement. Something rooted in years of experience, belief, identity. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter, but stronger. "I don't step away," he says. And just like that, the real confrontation begins. The silence doesn't break. It tightens, like the entire studio is holding its breath, waiting to see who moves next. George Clooney sits forward now, elbows lightly resting on the table. No longer the relaxed guest, no longer the charming storyteller. His eyes are locked on Whoopi Goldberg, and for the first time, there's a visible shift in power. Not louder, not aggressive, but grounded, serious. "I don't step away," he repeats, more firmly this time. "You don't spend years advocating, putting your name on things that matter, showing up in places most cameras don't go, and just walk away from it." A few people in the audience nod. Some even clap softly. Whoopi doesn't. She watches him the way only someone with decades of experience in both Hollywood and real-world conversations can, calm, unmoved, analytical. "You step away when the cameras turn off," she replies. The words are quiet, but they hit harder than anything so far. Clooney exhales through his nose, a flicker of frustration crossing his face before he regains control. "That's not fair," he says. Whoopi tilts her head. "Isn't it?" The tension sharpens. And now, even the co-hosts of The View seem unsure whether to step in or let this unfold. Because what's happening right now? This isn't television anymore. This is two philosophies colliding. Clooney straightens in his chair. "You've spent your career speaking truth," he says, his tone measured but pointed. "You've called out injustice, challenged systems, whether it was in your stand-up, your interviews, or sitting right here at this table. So I'm trying to understand. Why question someone else for doing the same thing?" There's a ripple in the audience. Because he's right. Whoopi's career isn't just about entertainment, it's about voice. From her early one-woman performances to her Oscar-winning role in Ghost, to decades of speaking her mind on national television, she's built a legacy on saying what others won't. And she knows it, but she doesn't soften. Because intention matters, she says. And so does impact. Clooney nods slowly. "I agree. But they're not always the same thing," she cuts in. That lands. Again, the audience shifts, some leaning forward, others exchanging glances. This is no longer about who's right. It's about what's real. Clooney pauses, choosing his next words carefully. "I've worked with journalists, activists, people on the ground," he says. "I don't speak over them, I amplify them." Whoopi's expression doesn't change. "But you're still the one being heard the loudest," she replies. A murmur spreads. That's the heart of it. Not what he's saying, but who gets to say it, and who gets listened to. Clooney leans back slightly now, running a hand across his chin. For a moment, he looks less like a movie star, and more like a man genuinely trying to bridge a gap that refuses to close. "So what's the alternative?" he asks. "Stay silent." Whoopi shakes her head immediately. "No. Then what?" Her answer comes without hesitation. "Listen more than you speak." A pause. A real one this time. And something shifts again. Because that wasn't an attack. That was a principle. Clooney studies her for a second. And when he speaks again, his voice is quieter. "I do listen," he says. Whoopi leans forward slightly. "Then trust that listening doesn't always lead to speaking," she replies. The audience reacts, this time not with gasps or murmurs, but with something deeper. Recognition. Because this isn't just about George Clooney. Or Whoopi Goldberg. This is about every public figure, every voice, every moment where influence meets responsibility. Clooney's jaw tightens again, but not out of anger. Out of conflict. Internal. Visible. "You think I talk too much," he says. Whoopi gives the smallest hint of a smile. "I think sometimes you talk when the moment isn't yours." That hits harder than anything before. Even the air feels heavier now. The co-hosts glance at each other. This has gone far beyond a typical segment. But no one interrupts. Because no one can. Clooney looks down briefly, then back up. And when he speaks, there's something new in his tone. Not defensiveness. Not frustration. But honesty. "I've made mistakes," he admits. The audience quiets instantly. That wasn't expected. "I've spoken when I shouldn't have," he continues. Or maybe not listened as much as I could have. But I've also seen what silence does. I've seen what happens when people with platforms choose to say nothing. Whoopi watches him closely now. Not challenging. Not interrupting. Just listening. I don't want to be that person, Clooney finishes. And for the first time since this began, there's no immediate response. No sharp comeback. No tension-filled interruption. Just a moment. A real one. Whoopi leans back slowly, her arms uncrossing. And when she finally speaks, her voice is different. Softer, but no less powerful. Then don't be, she says. A beat. But understand, being heard comes with responsibility beyond intention. Clooney nods. Slowly. I know. Do you? She asks. The question hangs there. Not as an attack, but as a challenge. A deeper one. Because now, it's not about proving a point. It's about understanding it. The audience is completely silent. Locked in. No phones. No whispers. No distractions. Just two people at a table, having a conversation that feels bigger than both of them. Clooney leans forward again. And this time, his voice carries something new. Not defense. Not explanation. But vulnerability. Help me understand it better, he says. And just like that, the energy in the room shifts again. Because the confrontation? It's no longer about winning. It's about something much harder. Listening, and what comes after it. For a moment, no one speaks. Not the hosts. Not the audience. Not even the producers behind the glass. Because something rare is happening on the set of The View. The tension hasn't disappeared. It's transformed. George Clooney sits forward, his earlier confidence now tempered with something quieter. Something more introspective. Across from him, Whoopi Goldberg studies him carefully, as if weighing whether this moment, this opening, is real. Help me understand it better, he had said. And now, the weight of those words lingers in the air. Whoopi exhales slowly, her fingers resting lightly on the table. You really want to understand? She asks. Clooney nods. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't. There's no performance in his voice now. No charm. Just intention. Whoopi leans forward. And when she speaks, her tone shifts, not confrontational, not defensive, but deeply personal. Then let me take you somewhere, she says. Not physically, but mentally. The audience leans in. This isn't debate anymore. This is perspective. I grew up in a world, Whoopi continues, where being heard wasn't a given, where your voice had to fight just to exist in the room. Her words are steady, but they carry history. Real history. The kind that shaped her long before the cameras, long before Ghost, long before the Oscar, the stage, the spotlight. I didn't have the luxury of choosing when to speak, she says. Sometimes speaking was survival. The room is silent. Clooney doesn't interrupt. He listens. Really listens. And when you come from that, Whoopi continues, you learn something important. Not every moment is yours to lead. Some moments you protect. You hold space for others. Clooney nods slowly. I hear that, he says quietly. But Whoopi doesn't stop. Do you? She asks again, not sharply this time, but with quiet insistence. Because there's a difference between hearing and understanding what it costs. That word hangs in the air. Cost. Clooney shifts slightly in his seat. And for a brief second, something flashes across his face. Not disagreement, but realization. I've had privilege, he admits. A murmur ripples through the audience. That word, spoken out loud, changes the temperature of the room. Whoopi watches him carefully. Say more, she says. Clooney takes a breath. And when he speaks again, it's slower. More deliberate. I grew up in a family connected to media, he says. I stepped into an industry where doors opened. Not always easily, but they opened. He pauses. I didn't have to fight to be heard in the same way you did. Whoopi nods once. Not approving. Not dismissing. Just acknowledging. That matters, she says. Clooney continues. And maybe, sometimes I assume that using my voice is always helpful, he says. Because I've seen it make a difference. And that's true. From his directorial work on Good Night and Good Luck, a film deeply rooted in journalism, truth, and accountability, to his activism around global conflicts, Clooney has built a reputation on speaking when it counts. But now he's questioning it. Not entirely, but enough. Whoopi leans back slightly. And it can make a difference, she says. That's not the issue. Then what is? Clooney asks. Her answer is immediate. Balance. The word lands softly, but firmly. Knowing when your voice adds value, and when it takes up space that someone else has been fighting to claim. Clooney looks down briefly. That one hits deeper than the others. Because it's not criticism. It's clarity. The audience feels it too. There's no tension now, only focus. Understanding is beginning to form, but it's not complete. Not yet. Clooney looks back up. And how do you know the difference? He asks. Whoopi smiles slightly. Not because it's an easy question, but because it's the right one. You don't always, she says. That's the truth. A soft ripple of laughter moves through the audience, but it fades quickly. Sometimes you get it wrong, she continues. I have. Plenty of times. She glances briefly at the audience. Decades in the spotlight, on stage, on screen, and at this very table, have come with moments of praise and moments of backlash. Real ones. Public ones. And when you do, she adds, you listen. You learn. And you don't make it about defending yourself. You make it about growing. Clooney nods again. More firmly this time. That part, I can do better at, he admits. Another unexpected moment. Another shift. Whoopi studies him for a second longer. And then she says something that changes everything. This isn't about you being wrong, George. A pause. It's about you being aware. The words settle into the room like gravity. Because that's what this has been about all along. Not proving a point. Not winning an argument. But reaching a deeper understanding of what it means to have a voice. And what it costs to use it. Clooney exhales slowly. And for the first time since this began, he smiles. Not the polished, camera-ready smile. But something smaller. Real. I think I needed to hear that, he says. Whoopi gives a small nod. I think a lot of people do. The audience reacts. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with something more meaningful. Applause. Steady. Respectful. Earned. But just as the moment begins to settle, one of the co-hosts shifts slightly, glancing between them. Because everyone in the room feels it. This conversation? It's not over. There's still something unresolved. Something deeper. Clooney senses it too. He leans forward one more time. And what about when staying silent feels like complicity? He asks. The question cuts through the calm. Sharp. Direct. Because now we've reached the heart of the conflict. Whoopi doesn't answer immediately. She takes a breath. Looks at him. Then at the audience. And when she finally speaks, her voice carries the weight of everything that's come before. Then you better be sure, she says slowly, that when you speak, you're not just being heard. A beat. You're helping someone else be heard too. Silence. Complete. Unshakable. And in that silence, the conversation reaches its most powerful point yet. Not loud. Not explosive. But undeniable. Because now, it's no longer a debate. It's a reckoning. For a few seconds after those words, no one moves. Not George Clooney. Not Whoopi Goldberg. Not even the audience sitting just feet away from history quietly unfolding on the set of The View. Because that last line, you're helping someone else be heard too. It doesn't just land. It echoes. Clooney sits still, absorbing it. You can almost see the thoughts moving behind his eyes, recalibrating, reevaluating. Not just the conversation, but the weight of everything he's said publicly for years. The cameras stay tight on his face. No music. No interruptions. Just truth settling in. Finally, he nods. Not performatively. Not for the audience. But slowly, as if acknowledging something internal. You're right, he says. 3 simple words. But in a room like this, in a moment like this, they carry more power than any speech. A wave moves through the audience. Not loud. Not explosive. But deeply felt. Because this isn't a victory. It's understanding. Whoopi watches him, her expression unreadable for a moment, and then, just slightly, it softens. Not into agreement, but into respect. That's all this is, she says quietly. A conversation. Clooney lets out a breath, almost a quiet laugh, but not quite. Didn't feel like just a conversation, he admits. A ripple of light laughter breaks the tension. Even Whoopi smiles, just a little. Those are the only ones worth having, she replies. And just like that, the storm begins to pass. But its impact? That's just beginning. The cameras slowly pull back as the segment wraps, but something is different now. The applause that fills the studio isn't the usual polite, rhythmic clapping of a daytime audience. It's louder, longer, more intentional. People stand. Not everyone, but enough. Because what they just witnessed wasn't scripted entertainment. It was real. Backstage, minutes later, the energy shifts again. Producers move quickly, voices low but urgent. Phones are already lighting up. Clips are being cut in real time. One assistant whispers, "It's already trending." Another responds everywhere. And they're not exaggerating. Within minutes, social media explodes. Clips of the exchange flood platforms. Clooney leaning forward, Whoopi's calm but piercing delivery, that final line echoing across captions, hashtags, headlines. Whoopi Goldberg silences George Clooney in powerful on-air moment. George Clooney admits, "You're right," after heated debate. The View delivers one of its most real conversations ever. The reactions are instant and divided. Some praise Whoopi's clarity, her lived perspective, her refusal to soften hard truths. Others defend Clooney, pointing to his long history of activism, his work in conflict zones, his willingness to use his platform for global issues. But what stands out most isn't the division. It's the discussion. People aren't just reacting. They're thinking, debating, questioning. Clips are replayed not for drama, but for meaning. Even major media outlets begin dissecting the moment, referencing Clooney's directorial work like Good Night and Good Luck, a film built around the responsibility of speaking truth to power, and contrasting it with Whoopi's decades-long career of lived, vocal advocacy. From her Oscar-winning performance in Ghost to her unfiltered voice on The View, her presence has always carried something more than celebrity. Authority, authenticity, experience. And now those two forces, Clooney's global platform and Whoopi's grounded perspective, have collided in a way that feels bigger than television. Back inside the studio, Clooney stands near the side stage, jacket slung over his shoulder. For a moment, he's alone. No cameras, no audience, just silence. He looks back toward the table where it all happened. And there's no frustration in his expression. No resentment. Just thought. Deep, lingering thought. A producer approaches carefully. "You okay?" Clooney nods. "Yeah," he says. "A beat. That was important." Across the room, Whoopi is speaking quietly with one of the staff members. She doesn't look shaken. She doesn't look triumphant either. Just steady. Grounded. The same presence she's always been. When she finally glances over, their eyes meet briefly. No words. No gestures. Just a look. Mutual. Respectful. And then it's gone. The moment has passed. But its impact? That's only growing. Hours later, the clip crosses millions of views. Debates continue across platforms, podcasts, news panels. Experts weigh in. Fans dissect every word, every pause, every expression. Because something about it felt rare. Unfiltered. Honest. Not a shouting match. Not a scandal. But something far more powerful. A real conversation between two people who refuse to reduce each other to headlines. And now, it's your turn. What did you think of this moment? Was Whoopi Goldberg right about perspective and responsibility? Or do you agree with George Clooney that using your voice, no matter your position, is always necessary? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end here. And if you want more cinematic, reality-inspired stories like this, moments that blur the line between Hollywood and truth, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to see it. Because sometimes, the most powerful battles aren't fought with noise. They're fought with understanding.